Hey, what's up, beautiful world, and welcome back to another fantastic segment of interviews with my friend, Miss Julie Bowditch. It's so great to have you, director of the CASA project. And I say that because I feel like that's such a, you know what I mean? It's a role. Like, you're up there, but you're not. You're cool. You're like grounded. You're definitely. You don't give me director vibes. Is that?
I don't know how to take that.
You're mad cool.
Thank you.
I mean, that's probably a huge compliment in that. Obviously, CASA isn't going to have you be a director if you weren't qualified or if you weren't able to fill the role. But not only are you able to do that, but you're so relatable and humble. And
Thank you.
I think that's important, especially when you're dealing with so many volunteers, so many different personalities. And to make volunteering is not easy, especially like you said, these people are dedicating hours of years, you know?
Absolutely.
And to keep them engaged. How is that for you, you know, knowing that you have this responsibility, not only to your volunteers, you know, to keep them engaged and keep them wanting to come back, but to all these families that rely on those volunteers?
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to take zero credit for that.
Yeah?
I have the most incredible team that I work with. My colleagues they're really, I feel beyond fortunate and grateful, but I am not just saying that. These are people who have, in some cases, dedicated the large majority of their careers to this work. They feel so strongly about it, but they're the ones who are really like working with our volunteers day in and day out. And there are not words that I can say that is enough for, we have a very small team. Everyone wears a lot of hats. Everyone works super, super, super hard. And these are people who, I mean, I cannot tell you how grateful I am, or our whole community really frankly should be, for them, because they're the ones who are a little bit more behind the scenes in some cases, but they're doing the hard work. Yeah. And they're so incredible with our volunteers and with the day-to-day and working, you know, with the courts directly and all this. And I cannot say enough about what a strong team we have. It's growing, which I'm very grateful for. To your point, this week is my 1-year anniversary as executive director.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Oh, I forgot the executive. My bad.
Feels like,
but happy anniversary.
Thank
titles
you.
matter. You worked hard for that, so I need to
you.
get it right. Or,
yeah.
you know, I need to put respect on that
title.
Well,
I mean, the reality is, right, everybody who's out there running whatever it might be, organization, company, or other projects and endeavors, we're all just regular people too.
I'm not a title person either, personally. I could care less. It's not about what I'm labeled. It's what I'm doing, what my actions are,
Absolutely.
how I show up every day, and how I move in the world.
Well, and CASA's whole mission is to support our community, and so it's important to me to be integrated into the committee. The community, you know, and to establish those connections and those relationships too for CASA, for, you know, so we can help serve more kids, do a better job of supporting those kids and families. So, you know, it's important. I'm glad that,
and it starts at the top, right? Because it's all about the culture that you set
Absolutely.
for the organization, you know. And if we have a happy, humble, goal-oriented leader at the top, sorry, I know you said your team, but you know what I'm saying, then that energy trickles down to everyone else involved. Well, even down to and including the families, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that it's important. I think that why our team is so impactful and effective is because everyone is there because they want to be there.
Right.
Everyone's really bought into the mission very deeply. So people aren't kind of like doing the 9 to 5. Now, that being said, preserving that work-life balance and their mental health is of utmost importance to me.
Are we talking about your team?
Our team,
right.
Yeah. So when I say they're not acting like the 9 to 5, it's true. They put their heart and soul into this work, but I just wanted to be clear too that is not an expectation that people are working around the clock or, you know, these excessive kinds like crazy. We believe that they can bring their best version, you know, all of us, including my team, to their work when they are able to, you know, step away and refresh and spend time, you know, with their family and friends and on other things that might not be work related. So I am grateful for, but my point being that they're all there because they want to be there, and that shows, that shines through in their work. And I'm just, they're I'm very grateful in a time when I know like staffing and hiring and retention and all those things are just so hard. And we're a small organization. We have a relatively small budget. We're a relatively small team. People are grinding. So it says a lot about these people as individuals that they've stuck with it, that they've been so consistent, and that they are so passionate about the work. So
yeah, and it has to really speak to their passion and dedication to really nurturing and guiding our youth through such a difficult time and process in their lives, so that they can have that chance to be something successful, something
to have a chance.
Yeah, productive, and just have a chance at life. Because let's be real, in my opinion, their chance was kind of stolen from them, because kids aren't involved in court because of anything. I want to say this carefully. Because of anything they necessarily did. Like
the circumstances surrounding the situation that brought them to us has nothing to do with them. Anything they did or did not do. Clearly, there's multiple layers of failure that has sort of like led up to their circumstances, but none of them were by them, the child themselves, right? So like, I think that is important, and knowing that how all of this shakes out for them can and will impact the rest of their life, it's so foundational. And I may have even said this to you before, and I've said it so many times, because I think it's so impactful to when you think about like, okay, you're a kid. So let's just say you're 6 years old. And a lot of the youth we serve are very young, under the age of 6. So let's just say you're 6 years old and your case has been open for 4 years. Let's just say, hypothetically. So for 2/3 of your life, you've been essentially transient. You've been, not in a permanent place.
Stable environment.
Right. You may have changed foster homes or been living with different family members or whatever it might look like in that individual circumstance. That's a massive amount. Like 4 years is a lot of time for anybody, adults, myself. But when you think about it as like that's 2/3 of their existence, never mind, it's probably the only part that they remember, like that they have any like real formative memories. That's so significant.
Yeah. And the most tragic part is they may not have any role in their own lives up until now, when the CASA project comes and actually gives them a voice.
Well, and
they may not have ever been heard.
Right. And what I think it's so important, like this is happening to them, like they're the victims, they're the ones who are in the situation. So like, that's where we really want to elevate, their opportunities to have a safe, permanent outcome, as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, we can't control the pace, of when a case gets closed, really, but we can certainly stick with them during that time, and that can be frustrating for everyone involved, and rightfully so. But creating even just that one, like there's so much research out there that says that even just having one reliable adult in your life or trusted person in your life, when you are a child, regardless of circumstances, not just for kids who are in the foster care system, but any youth. Even just that one person can change everything for them. And there's, people have spent their careers researching this, so it's significant. And when you think like that, this could be, the CASA could be that person. And I think in many cases it has been and is, it's really significant.
Yeah. And it's sometimes just the simplest things, which I think is such a great thing that CASA does bring to these children, is that kids really crave acknowledgement. Right? They just want to know that that they exist and they're here and they're real and they have feelings.
And they matter.
And then validation. They want to feel like they're validated, like that their feelings, like you just said, matter. So the fact that a lot of kids may not have even got that brings me to another question I had, which is, we've been talking a lot about like victims. So we've been talking about, maybe what it seems like a child that may be in court for a custody battle or for some kind of trauma that was inflicted on them, whether it be physical or otherwise. But does CASA also handle criminal youth, if we can even touch on that? And how does that feel to your volunteers? Because
it's a good question.
It must be really hard because, sure, a kid commits a crime, even as heinous as murder, because there have been children who have been convicted as of murder, but does that really make them, when you're spending all this time with them and you see the real child behind the act, there's way more. Like, the act is just
There's
tip of the
always a
iceberg.
story. Yeah, absolutely.
How does that
We don't
feel?
get involved in that. So to answer your question,
Okay.
that's not our situation. Most of the cases that we support are care and protection cases. So
Gotcha.
meaning that it's, through the child welfare system. So that being said, I guess it is fair to touch on the fact that there are a lot of intersections, right? So these vulnerable youth, kids who have been through trauma and a lot of instability and stuff, there is a lot of intersections with higher rates of incarceration, mental health situations. Like, this is not, while that's not how we are assigned to a case, or that's not, the cases that we're serving on, it's certainly important to note that those are kids who are much, much more vulnerable to,
Systemic oppression.
challenge systemic oppression.
And it's really true, because a lot of these kids that are being convicted do come from households that are financially stricken.
Absolutely.
That are severely
under-resourced,
plagued with mental health issues, because
so poverty, mental health, and just marginalized groups.
Yeah.
That's really the folks who are most at risk of finding yourself in a situation where your family gets split up or something like that. And why is that? Is that because these are bad people, bad parents? Almost never. It's not that there aren't those people that are in existence, I'm sure, but it's almost always means versus motivation, if you know what I mean. Like, these are people who are having to make choices that no one should have to make for their families. Do you, leaving your child at home alone because you don't have another sick day, and you can't risk losing your job, and then you lose your apartment or your house or whatever it might be. Like, there's just so many layers to it that I think our society likes to try to ignore, or maybe even kind of sort of make it look like these are bad people or bad parents. And it's like, actually, I think they're just under-resourced. Yeah. They're just not...
Their circumstances are bad.
Absolutely. Or they're not being given the opportunities to break out of what can be a very, very vicious cycle.
Generational.
Obviously at the root of it, right? We're kind of coming in later, because we're coming in the part where those things have occurred, and now we're like, what can we do to support during, the process? Those things have already, unfortunately, impacted their families.
Right.
But I think it is important to note that is such a large percentage of, nationally, not just in Worcester County, certainly, or Massachusetts, but of families who are being impacted by, the child welfare system and so forth. So, yeah, I like to look at it as best case scenario, I am out of a job because our services are no longer needed. Unfortunately, I don't see that happening in, the next few years, certainly, but it would be the dream. Right. That my job doesn't exist because we don't need it. Right. Because we're providing the services and the resources to families before.
Right. On a preventative level.
Right. And in a sustainable way. And, so anyway,
which
that would
really
be the dream
is
come
very
true.
easy, by the way, guys. Sorry to cut you off, but
No.
it's very, very easy. It aggravates me, because this is the thing. We don't value our education, or our educators. We don't value our mental health providers the way we should. I mean, we're paying millions of dollars to entertainers and sports stars. We've talked about this before. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things that just it makes my skin crawl. Mm-hmm. The fact that if we just invested more in simple things, educators, mental health providers, we may be able to take all that money that we're literally wasting in the... Sorry.
No,
you don't have to agree.
Oh, no, I couldn't
that we're
agree
literally
more. No, the
wasting
reality
in the legal
is,
system.
I guess the root of it that I think that bothers me, like what you're saying, is that we have the resources. Yeah. we have them. Our country has the resources.
We could pay our teachers. Listen, I'm sorry, but $40K a year.
Who can live?
Especially with $2,000 a month for rent.
Never mind if you have a family, and you know what I mean. Like, who can do it on a sustainable level, and never mind that it's also very taxing work.
Yeah, one of my best friends. Well, you know Charisse. She's a co-host on the show. She deals with 70 kids a day. I don't know how she keeps her bolts in that noggin of hers. I don't. She's a special kind of person, and it takes a special kind of person. And I think that we don't value that, and it's not always about money as much as it is about we need money to sustain and to be able to keep everything in place for whether it's preventative measures or what would be great if we didn't even need preventative measures and we could just.
Well, to your point, like we spend so much time and energy and resources like picking up the messes that we're creating as a society. And it's like, hello, like there's this book that I read many, many, many years ago, early in my career when I was working with, youth and residential placements. And it's called Who's Throwing Babies in the River. And at the time, the executive director of Perkins School up in Lancaster wrote that.
Nobody's really throwing babies in the river.
Well, but I think that it's talking about like that analogy of like we're all trying to pull people out of the river, right? Like they're coming downstream.
We're quick to save the babies, but we're not quick to worry about how they're getting in the river to begin with. Gotcha.
Exactly. And it's like we all want to come to the rescue and save and like help pull them out, right? And like that's important. Of course, that's what we're doing and it's necessary, unfortunately. Right. But let's get to the root of this. Like where is it all starting from? And we're pushing them in the river practically, you know what I mean? And then we're like going downstream and like hauling them out like, look at me, I helped. But it's like, well, no, let's just not like shove them in the river to begin with, right? So like, anyway,
I love your root analogy.
Yeah.
You know, just like your garden, you're not just going to chop the heads off the roots. I mean, off the weeds. You're going to pull them from the roots.
Exactly.
We're not doing that.
Right.
Anyway, we need to take another quick break. Listen, we can go on and on. I love
when we
this
come
topic.
back, I think we'll lighten the mood a little bit because we have some really exciting projects going on that I wanted to talk about.
I love that. Yes. And I did tease that we were going to talk about who this guy was. So this is Lucky, right? Is that what we're going with? So Lucky, if you watch some of our old episodes, our original episodes, yes, it's March. Yes, St. Patrick's Day is upon us. Yes, we're going to be having a St. Patrick's Day parade in Worcester this weekend, actually. Are you going to be going?
Oh, yes.
Yes? CASA's going to be represented, or is it just a Julie thing?
This is a Julie thing. Okay. That's a different story. But yes, I will be there helping out with the folks that are in the parade, pre-parade, getting them in their order.
Awesome.
To go off.
That's dope. I don't know. I'm
some shenanigans also might ensue. But
I don't know what exactly I'm going to do. I'm still thinking about it, but I'm definitely going to pop up and show face. But Lucky here has actually, if you look into some of the old episodes, I was editing last week, and I just happened to see this little guy standing behind my shoulder. He's been here for how many shows, John? 6? All of them. And I'm just noticing now. And so we brought him up to the forefront because it's his month, and we wanted people to see him.
He deserves it.
So now I'm over his shoulder. So Lucky, welcome to the crew, the set. We're so happy and honored to have you. But we'll be right back here on Interviews with Julie Bowditch.